Pitch In for Baseball and Softball, which is the organization Roy has devoted so much time with and is such a big part of. So if you mention our show, he will donate $10 to Pitch In for Baseball, Pitch In for Softball, and State Farm, the National State Farm, will match that. So $20 will go to a very worthy charity that Roy and I have talked about before. So Tony's been great. He's got a good heart. He handles my insurance. He handles Michael Russo's insurance. We've been very happy with him. HOAGLUND.
Hi, Talk North listeners. I wanted to let you all know about State Farm's new Quotes for Good program. We partner with local nonprofits to raise money for great causes. For the Roy Smalley Show, I will be donating $10 to Pitch In for Baseball and Softball. This provides baseball and softball equipment for kids in need. Be sure to mention the show when you reach out to us so that we can track the donations. You can reach us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at champlininsurance.com.
So I saw Ryan Lefevre in the hall, and Ryan has been around the game for a long time now. He has some people he really leans on for inside baseball information. He said one thing he heard from some of his favorite people last year when the Twins were struggling was it's not unusual at all for a talented young team to have almost unexpected success and then not be able to immediately follow up on it just because, it almost hit them too early. It almost hit them before they really knew what they were doing. And then when they had a year with dealing with expectations, maybe a year where everything didn't go as well, they'd kind of backtrack a little bit. That would not be an illogical way to look at what's happened these last 3 years.
That's absolutely true. I have a couple of examples. One is just what you say, that as players emerge, young players emerge as good players and have a really big year, then individually and collectively, then the next year it's hard to follow up on that. Because they're still learning how to follow up on that. They're still, the pitchers make adjustments to the hitters. Everybody's making adjustments to what the players did the year before, and then they have to adjust to the adjustments, and they haven't had to do that much in their lives before. And hitters and players and teams can go backwards a little bit, or at least get very volatile, get real choppy. And I think that's what happened with the Twins' young players. And then, of course, now they've been through a lot, and they emerged this year as young veteran players, and they're eminently able to handle that. They get even more veteran players to complement them, and the result is what we've gotten. But I think I'll give you another example. In 1986, I believe it was. It could have been 85. It could have been 86. I think it was 85. The Twins went through. Now we had the makings of a World Series team. It was probably 85. With Herbeck and Gaddy and Puck and Gagne and Bruno and all those guys emerging as really good young players and becoming veterans, but we went through. We lost 10 games in a row, and won 12 games in a row, and then lost 9 games in a row. And that's exactly what happens when you've got teams that aren't quite there, that have the talent but aren't quite there either in their own development, or they're short enough in enough places where sometimes on the field, right? So if you don't have a closer, if you don't have enough starting pitching, whatever it is, the talent that is there, it just isn't quite enough. So you can win 9 or 10 games in a row because you're good. And then you can turn around and lose 12 or 13 or 14 games in a row because you're not there yet and you don't quite know how to handle it. So all of those things are absolutely true in baseball.
What really has stunned me about this team, I mean, Cruz is having another amazing year, but the only real question about him was, would he just hit that age barrier that would deflate a little bit of his effectiveness? And it hasn't happened. He's been phenomenal. But I guess the most stunning thing about this year's team is that Garver went from being a guy who they thought might be a backup catcher who can hit a little bit to being one of the most productive, efficient offensive players in baseball. What led to this leap for him?
It's a head scratcher. Even though I know, even though he told me the reason, it's still a head scratcher. I stare at him in disbelief and say, yeah, but Yeah, I know, but how did you do that? Because, here's a guy that in the minor, I mean, he hit 30 home runs in 280 at bats. He hit a home run every, 9.5 at bats or something like that. And when he had gotten to 30, here's a guy that had never in the minor leagues or in his season in the big leagues had never hit one in more, in less than, fewer than, and then 40 at bats anywhere at any time. So what the heck happened? And he's always been thought of as a potentially very strong offensive player. He's strong and he's a line drive hitter. And I think the organization thought he was going to be a good offensive player. They didn't know about that he would do this, but they thought he was going to be a very good offensive player. He always thought that he would be a good offensive player. He really thinks he can hit. And he thinks that there's nobody can throw the ball too hard for him. He likes velocity. He's got a short, compact swing, and he kept working to hone that in the big leagues. So I said, yeah, I know all that. You've got this short swing, but what about the home runs? What's going on? And he said, all winter long, I decided I needed to hit the ball in the air more, so I just worked on that. I worked on getting my short stroke to a point where the launch angle would be better, where I would hit the ball deep in the air, all over the field, and so that's the reason. And that's when I was scratching my head. I said, yeah, I get that. But how do you do that? How does anybody
wants to do
how does anybody do that? I mean, I know that's what you said that you did, but how do you make that leap in the big leagues from out of nowhere from a power? It's not out of nowhere from a talent standpoint.
Right.
It's out of nowhere from the power standpoint. And he just decided that that's what he was going to do, and it happened. And I'm going, okay, fine. That's beyond my ability to even conceive, because I don't know. Maybe there's a little bit. I've got a little bit of a personal situation that relates. I mean, I know there were a lot of people that thought the same. In 1976, my first full year in the big leagues, I hit 3 home runs, and in 77 I hit 6. And in 78, I hit 19, and 79, I hit 24. And I went on to hit, average up there in that range for 4 or 5 years. And people were wondering about that too. So it's certainly possible that a guy can figure out how he can be more effective in whatever way, whether it's hitting for average or hitting for power or both. But even in my little example, it's not like this. It's not like hitting 30 home runs and 280 at bats. It wasn't like that.
Reminder, Talk North is sponsored by Bite Squad, bitesquad.com. Use promo code Talk North to get your first delivery fee waived. They deliver fast. They deliver restaurant quality food that looks like it just came out of the kitchen. Morning, noon, night, snacks, late night, home, office, elsewhere. Bite Squad, bitesquad.com, promo code Talk North. From Jason Lee on Twitter, what adjustments does Arraez need to make to this without taking away from what has got him where he is now, or is hitting at this level of constant balancing act where if you make adjustments in one area, you must sacrifice in others?
So that was in response to a Twitter conversation that we were having when he wondered if Arraez, as good as he is at getting base hits, singles and doubles, if he could ever develop into a power hitter. And I said, there's been examples of that. A lot of good hitters have come up hitting the ball to the middle and opposite field for high average, and learned how to harness their ability and be able to pull the ball with power. And Don Mattingly is one of the greatest examples of that ever. He came up, we were teammates in A2 when he came up, and he was, by reputation and by example in the big leagues, I mean, he could line the ball to left field for a single as well as anybody that there was. And it wasn't until he learned how, with his swing and his ability, how the best way to pull the ball would be, that he developed into the truly terrific slugging percentage hitter that he was. it just doesn't work for everybody all the time. And what Jason was asking, and I said, some guys can learn how to do it, some guys can't. What Jason is asking really is, okay, what's the balancing act? How do you try to learn to get more power, or can they just not do that? They should just stick with what they got, what they have. And it really depends on the guy. Mattingly could do it. Joe Mauer, not as comfortable trying to do it. He just never was as comfortable saying, okay, I'm going to go up and look for a ball that I can pull. And his swing he just wasn't like that. He couldn't. Mattingly made a bit of a swing change and was able to do it. And Joe, for example, wasn't as comfortable. I'll give you another example is Wade Boggs and the great Harmon Killebrew line, where Wade Boggs is a great, singles and doubles to center and left center and, left field and hit 330 every year or whatever it was. And he did have power. He just didn't use it much. And someone said to Harmon Killebrew one time, Wade Boggs could hit 30 or 40 home runs, if he wanted to. He has that ability. And Harmon said, well, then why wouldn't he?
Right.
That's Harmon. Classic from Harmon. Why wouldn't he? And I think Boggs, just didn't want to mess with perfection for him. I mean, perfection was winning batting titles, and he wasn't going to go outside his comfort zone. Tony Gwynn, I'm sure could have hit more home runs. Was outside his comfort zone. So those are the kind of guys, especially the Tony Gwynns and the Carews and the Wade Boggs. Those are the kind of guys that Arise most resembles in terms of approach. He waits a long time on the ball to identify the pitch, so he's not fooled, and he's content because it's been successful for him. He's content to stay in the middle of the field and hit the ball all over the field, and not risk being fooled and having bad at bats because he's trying to do more. He's trying to hit the ball long to his pull field. Whether or not he can do that, and Jason's question is a really good one, it is a balancing act. Mattingly was able to find it. Not everybody can. I think what Arise will do as he gets in, I don't think he'll ever go away from his approach. I think he'll be more like Tony Gwynn than like Don Mattingly. But I think what he has a chance to do, because he's a really smart hitter and he knows the strike zone so well, they're trying to pitch him inside and up because he waits long with fastballs. And because the longer you wait, the tougher. I mean, you have to hit the inside fastball out in front of you further than any other pitch and more quickly than any other pitch. And so they're starting to pitch him in there because he waits a long time. And that's what they do with every good hitter. And you start pitching him inside to see if he can handle that. And they've done that with some success. He's not hitting as well on those pitches when he swings at them than as he is on others. So what I think he will do is, I think as he goes along and gets more experience, he'll start recognizing which pitchers are going to try to pitch him in, and he'll look for the ball. I think he knows how to pull the ball on inside pitches if he wants to. I think he has the kind of swing that would say, I'm gonna cheat on it. I'm gonna look for it in there, and I'm gonna cheat, and I'm gonna get the big bat early in the count when I can give away a strike. I'm gonna look for it in there and try to pull the ball with authority. I think he'll have the ability to do that, and then once he does that, pitchers will go back out over the plate or throwing breaking balls, and he'll go back to his middle of the diamond, all over the field kind of approach. That's what I suspect will be the case with him. I don't think he'll ever become a 12 or 15 home run guy. I could be wrong about that, but I think that he's so ingrained in the way he is now. I think he'll refine, but I don't think he'll change a lot.
And the thing about him, too, you got to be what you are to a certain extent, too. He's not a particularly big guy. He's not a particularly muscular guy. And if he wanted to kind of bulk up and go for the pull, try to hit home runs to right field, he would lose a lot of what makes him incredibly effective and has the ability to hit 330, 350 at every level, which is, just read pitches, put the ball in play hard to all fields. He might lose that.
Yeah, and that was Jason's question. I mean, is that what happens? And the answer is, yeah, it can happen. And really, it's a trade-off. What do you want, from a guy? You'd like to have, if someone can hit 330 or 40, what everybody would say is, well, can you hit 300 and